Imagine you are on an airplane in the middle seat of your row. To your right is a friend, family member, whatever you want. To your left is a complete stranger. When you're about to take off, the stranger to your left turns to you and asks you what seems to be a simple question. They ask, "Who are you?" In this situation, what do you say? Some people might try and crack a joke. Others might give a monologue on their life story. Some people might be very literal and talk about how they are a combination made up of mostly 6 elements. They aren't exactly wrong, but I feel bad for the person who asked the question and has to respond to that. In the instant someone asked me that question, I would give an answer somewhere along these lines. Hello, my name is Annabel Willmott. I'm 13 years old, and I love to do Irish dance. I can imagine that many people would answer similarly, even if they don't give that exact information. It contains many of the common parts of your average answer, including my name, age, and what I like to do. I am aware that those answers are regular, and what would be expected. But isn't there information about me that's more important and relevant than what I enjoy eating? Is my favorite color really what I want people to remember me for? There's so many things I would rather be known as. One of the most important being personality. What is a personality? By definition, a personality is the combination of characteristics or qualities that form an individual's distinctive character. No matter what, you have your own individual personality, made of many different traits. Back in 1949, a psychologist named D.W. Fiske created the idea of the 5 main personality traits. The first one is extroversion, which has to do with social-related things. Second is agreeableness, and it's all about how willing you are to put others before yourself. Next is openness, which is connected to how trusting you are. The fourth is conscientiousness, which talks about work ethic, and how well you do at a task. And the last one was neuroticism, which is about things such as anger, anxiety, and sadness. By identifying these traits and seeing how lenient you are to them, you can find something very important: how you view yourself. So I have a little game for us to play. Think about what I just said about personalities, and get 5 personality traits in your head that you think describe you. These could be things like funny, kind, outgoing, anxious, trusting, impulsive. Once you have those things in your head, I want you to think about how those things are portrayed and how you look and act. Am I presenting myself to those around me in a way that shows the real me? Or do I act differently around others? Now, visualize yourself. Not just how you look, but how you feel and act too. That person, the one in your mind, is the image that you have of yourself. Now that I released some very dangerous information about personalities and viewing yourself, I have to tell you the warning label that comes with. Do you remember how I answered my first question? I mentioned my favorite hobby in my response, as many people would. We completely associate the things we spend our time on with who we are, turning the difference into a big gray area. Do not, I repeat, do not use hobbies and interests as your personalities. Hobbies are not what you are, ever. I totally get that those are important things. For instance, Irish dance takes up a lot of space in my brain and my Monday and Thursday nights. It's a big deal for me, and definitely a big part of my life. But it is not who I am. I'm so much more than the things I do. So are you. Just like people take other things, like sports, and say they are personalities, there are other ways that personalities are misinterpreted. Currently, I'm in 7th grade, and spend almost 36 hours every week surrounded by other 7th graders. It's practically a full-time job. Because of that experience, I've learned a lot about these people. And what I have noticed is that people change and mess with those characteristics that create them, forming them into something that they think others will enjoy more. For instance, someone might be an amazing author, passing every English test with flying colors. But recently, their grades have been dropping. Culprit? Their friends all think studying and trying in school is uncool. So, this person hasn't been paying attention and not doing well on tests to fit in with those friends. How awful is that? Failing in school because succeeding is weird? Sadly, this is a common occurrence, even if the circumstance isn't exactly that. Changing anything about yourself because of other individuals is tragic. No one should feel like they have to change or cover up anything about them because they felt it wasn't accepted. I could go on for hours about the impact of others on oneself. But it's time to get to the thing that affects a person the most. The thing that sees the best and worst in yourself and can decide which one you pay the most attention to. You. Our thoughts and actions have the most influence on us, more than anybody else, even though we pay a lot of attention to others. By having our own thoughts and feelings, we get to make our own choices, good and bad. So what does that mean? It means that we have the unique opportunity to choose how we get to be seen, not only by others, but by ourselves. And when it comes to viewing ourselves correctly and kindly, as humans have some work to do. We often look towards the negative, getting down on ourselves because of small things, making assumptions. We are honestly so mean to ourselves, more than we would be to anybody else. Now, some people might be more guilty of this than others, but we're all offenders, even in small ways. Once I heard a story about Einstein teaching in class. Now, after looking into it, I found it wasn't true, but I like the lesson that comes from it. One day, Einstein wrote on the board 10 math equations. 9 times 1 equals 9, 9 times 2 equals 18, all the way up to the last one. 9 times 10 equals 91. Immediately, the class started laughing at him. The answer is 90, not 91. But then Einstein expected this reaction, so he started speaking to the class. Out of the 10 problems I did right, I got 9 right and 1 wrong. But you only focused on the one I got wrong. Nobody congratulated me on the 9 I got right. So why did this happen? It's called a negativity bias. Clifford Noss, a professor at Stanford University, explains a great theory. He says, the brain handles positive and negative information in different hemispheres. The negative takes more thought, generally making it more memorable. Another theory is more about our history and how we evolved. Because the negatives become much more outstanding in our brains, because it's needed to, as a way to prevent danger. I'm sure that almost everyone has had an experience like this. My older brother Parker does numerous things that include singing, but he will never watch a video of one of his performances, because he knows he will criticize himself and be very hard on the performance. So why is this important? Because this natural negativity bias affects one thing drastically: personal self-image. Now, the reason behind this is simple. We always think that we are worse than others because of many different things. We think that we aren't as pretty as someone, we aren't as smart as someone, we can't write as good a TED Talk as Linnea. To overcome this, you need one thing: confidence. I know, easier said than done. To improve self-confidence, you need dedication, you need diligence, you need commitment. Honestly, I cannot just give you the answer to self-confidence. It's different for everybody, but I can't tell you what works for me. Number 1 is to remember that no one is good at everything, even if they look and act like it. Number 2 is to try to pay attention to how you view things, as your perspective can sometimes be blurred without us realizing it. And number 3 is to keep in mind that nobody's perfect. That's just, nobody is. Even if it seems like it, and even though you might think that, it never is true, ever. Again, these things might not work for you, and you have to find what helps for you individually. But trust me, putting in the time and effort to find your own self-confidence tips is something you won't regret. Confidence in yourself is like kryptonite to negativity biases, and even though it will still be there, it won't blur your view like it probably has previously. Confidence in being simply kind to yourself is so important, not only for your personal self-image, but for your mental health. It can cause many bad things. So it's super important to look at the 9 problems you did right instead of the one you didn't. So you might be wondering, why is it so important to have a good self-image? I want to know about myself. I have a good friend of mine, one who I didn't meet until last year under some interesting circumstances. But when she walked by, she was simply radiating with energy. She was nice to me immediately, she was kind to everyone around her, she was simply amazing. I was, at the time, with some friends who weren't exactly my friends, you know the type. But one day, I finally decided to go somewhere else, away from those people, and she invited me to sit next to her and to talk to her. It was great. For a long time after that, I wondered, what made her so amazing? What superpower did she possess that made her radiate that energy? Now, I realize She was confident in herself. And the reason that it stood out is because you don't often find a lot of self-confidence in middle school. This person has her fair share of problems, as everyone does. But it doesn't matter. She knows who she is. She stays true to it, not giving a second thought to what anybody else says. That's what makes her different. That's what makes her unique. That's what makes her someone I strive to be. Her name is Elizabeth Breacher, and I hope you get the chance to see her talk today. I have thrown a lot of information in your face, so much I doubt you can remember it all. But if there's one thing that I hope you can take away from my talk, is this. You are an amazing, unique individual. You are nobody else, and you shouldn't be. And no matter what, you are exactly who you need to be. And you might grow up, and things will change, but who you are inside never will. Believe in yourself, and you will be amazed by the outcomes. So let me ask you one final time.